and welcome to the August 2nd full moon in Capricorn guided releasing practice. I'm Phaedra. I'm the astrologer and artist of Mystick, Physick, Astrology, so welcome. I can't quite tell how our setup is working this evening, so thank you for bearing with me. We're getting a little bit of a late start. I'm not sure at all that we're broadcasting live to Facebook this evening. Everything says we're connected to YouTube. However, I don't see a live feed there either. But I'm going to keep going as though we are. I'm recording this as we're going, so if nothing else, I'll upload the recording after the fact. And stick around for your comments, stick around for your shares. If you catch the replay, I'm not quite sure what's going on here, so I'm going to pull the microphone in a little bit closer. We'll get my notes up in front of me. I'm going to give just one more refresh to the Facebook and YouTube browser tabs, just in case something shows up here. I don't see anything in the Sidereal Insights Astrology Facebook group, but that's not to say this isn't live on the Mystick Physick Astrology Facebook page, right? I kind of don't know what's going on. This happened one previous time as well. I was thinking at least if I had access to the YouTube live stream, I could share it into the Facebook group. But I don't even see it on YouTube. Although last time I did this, it did show up after the fact. So, that's okay. I think we'll dive right in. I think we'll just kind of jump in and get going. So welcome to the full moon in Capricorn. So we're going to take this kind of in a three-part approach. Let me scroll back up to the top. So really, what I'm intending to do with this broadcast is to, in the first part, cover specifics around the astrology of this particular full moon in Capricorn, what you need to know about current transits and how they can affect the outcome of this full moon. And then in part two, I'll go more into which house this is falling into for each of you according to your sidereal rising signs. We're working with the Fagan Bradley Sidereal Zodiac tonight. I'm a Western sidereal astrologer, and my aim with these guided practices is really to kind of show you ways that you can consciously use the energy of the transiting planets to affect your life in a positive way. Basically, we're learning how to respond to our transits rather than just react to them. And so with every new and full moon, there's an energy that's built into the new or full moon, and you can harness it and use it with intention. And that's really the goal of this broadcast. In part three, we're going to dive more generally into the themes of Capricorn, the Capricorn archetype, what that looks like, how we can embody it, how we do embody it in both healthy and unhealthy ways, and how we can look at the unhealthy ways that we embody this particular thing this evening and release it, let it go. Move past it, because it's the unhealthy embodiments of all the different astrological signs and how we manifest those in our lives that are really our stumbling blocks and that hold us back from really accomplishing what we want. And with Capricorn, we're specifically dealing with themes around ambition and reputation. We're dealing with themes of fear and loss as they relate to Saturn and Saturn's rulership of Capricorn. We're going to explore tonight why outcomes and consequences are so important. This is kind of one of the perspectives of Saturn in his rulership of Capricorn as being the planet of karma, cause and effect, what comes after. And we're going to look at how we can release fears, inhibitions, self-imposed limitations, things that might be holding us back from achieving what we really want. The idea is so that we can manifest greater success, greater achievement, greater, better results, right? So grab your sidereal natal chart. Like I said, we're using the Fagan Bradley Sidereal Zodiac tonight. You may want a pen or a pencil, a piece of paper that you're either going to tear up or burn. Grab a beverage if you don't have one. We might be here for, about an hour unless you decide to step out during part two. That's more relevant to folks who maybe aren't super familiar with the houses and what they represent in the chart. But let's, for part one, dive into the astrology of this full moon in Capricorn. So it's kind of an interesting full moon. It's kind of a tricky full moon. It's a very tense full moon, and I'm finding it difficult to find nice things to say about it, which is a challenge because I was raised that if you didn't have nice things to say, you shouldn't say anything. And maybe as an astrologer, that's not a bad practice to adopt. It just looks tense. It looks challenging. It looks frustrating. We've had a string of sign changes and a string of challenging aspects happen in the days leading up to this full moon, kind of setting the stage for it. Even going as far back as July 31st, which is a couple days ago, we had a Mercury opposing Jupiter, trying to Neptune at the same time. Neptune, of course, being the great dissolver, right? Neptune is kind of a tricky, slippery planet to pin down. He tends to highlight where we are disillusioning ourselves. He brings up things that might disappoint us. He brings up deception. He brings up any place where something isn't quite solid or stable. Neptune is going to bring that to your attention. Of course, we're coming into the full moon in Capricorn. Capricorn is very much about making sure things are solid and stable. So this is kind of hopefully giving you a bit of an eye-opener in the days leading into things that you might want to tend to during this full moon. With the full moon in Capricorn, it's always a great time to be wrapping up loose ends, taking care of obligations, unmet obligations or outstanding commitments that you might have. The 1st and 2nd of August, we had Venus and Mercury both shift signs. And Venus, of course, had been in Taurus. She'd been in Taurus for quite a long time. So now she's moving into Gemini. And that'll be a much faster transit than what we experienced while Venus was in Taurus. We have Mercury shifting from Gemini into Cancer. So the two boundaries of Gemini, we're seeing some planetary changes in the early days of August. But as Mercury was moving into Cancer, that day we also had a Sun square Uranus aspect, and that aspect is still strong and still with us as we move into the full moon. And so I want to highlight that this full moon could bring something unpredictable with it. So just kind of keep your eyes open, be watchful. Whatever it is likely to be completely out of the blue, not something that you might anticipate coming up. And it could be kind of destabilizing in that regard. But I want to talk about these two shifts of Venus and Mercury. Venus moving, of course, to Gemini and Mercury moving into Cancer. So both of the Ingress charts for these two transits factor Mars in a hard aspect to the planets of the transits themselves and into the general astrology of the day. And that's part of what I don't like about this particular full moon, these hard aspects to Mars from these sign changes just as we're moving into the full moon. And the full moon itself has kind of a challenging aspect to Mars from that stack up at the Sagittarius Capricorn cusp that ties in Saturn, it ties in Pluto, it ties in Jupiter. All of that is sitting square to Mars right now. And so that's a stack up of pretty powerful energy. And that, of course, all opposes Mercury in this full moon chart. We're very concerned with what's going on with Saturn when Saturn rules the full moon. And really, Saturn is kind of at this pivot point, and in a sense, being bombarded with a lot of stressors all at once. And these are stressors of very different types. With very different energetic signatures, and this full moon really is kind of a test of that pillar of Saturn. How strong is it? How durable is it? Saturn, of course, being about structure. So this full moon, I think we're kind of seeing those structures put to the test. But with both Ingress charts in hard aspect to Mars, and those challenges to Mars continuing into the full moon chart, I think there's a real chance for conflict, a real chance for the more difficult energetic expressions of Mars to come to the forefront. And so just kind of be aware of that. Mars is also going to square Jupiter exact on the 4th. So that's just the day after our full moon. And so I feel like this is a full moon where all this tension is really kind of coming to a head, and something could shift in a big way, or shift suddenly in an unpredictable way, and that the entire week leading up to this full moon has just been kind of challenging for lots of people, and in lots of ways there's potential for big news leading to transformation or change of some type. And that may trigger a degree of reactivity in us or in the people around us, could trigger unpredictable behavior, sudden shifts in understanding, or sudden shifts in perspective with the events around this particular full moon. Any outcomes tied up to this full moon could have unexpected consequences. And so I want to call that out. My phone, I apparently didn't put it on do not disturb before I went live, which I always do. I apologize. Let me do that real quick. I like to shut it down going into our live streams so that we don't have, anything disturbing us. So here we go. All right, no exceptions. Good, we're all set. So yeah, just be aware. Be aware of short fuses. Be aware of tempers and the potential for arguments, the potential for impulsiveness and headstrong behavior. Very challenging week with a very challenging full moon to kind of cap off a series of difficult days. So this full moon, here's what I wrote about this, and I kind of talked about this a little bit in last week's Sidereal Insights Astro Update. Something could come up out of the blue that requires immediate attention or a sudden shift of focus. Okay, so be aware of that. A sudden shift of focus to something completely unexpected, or like I said earlier, that comes up out of the blue, kind of comes up out of left field. This is really a challenging full moon, I think, in the way that I see it. Something kind of like I was saying comes to a head and maybe triggers a change of status or a change of public perception or a change of your perception of the situation. And drawn out conversations, possible stubbornness and intractability could be part of the picture, or there may be a need to generate ideas or dialogue around how to overcome limitations or deal with obstacles to achieving those desired outcomes. With this particular full moon, this is a full moon that could see structural change come with it. And if it does, it's kind of an opportune time for that, in the sense that we have Saturn retrograde during his tour of his own sign of Capricorn. So he's in his rulership. This is his first retrograde of that transit. So it's really a good opportunity to be taking a look at where is this underlying structure potentially weak, where does it need shoring up, make repairs as necessary, kind of attend to the strength of that. But overall, this full moon looks rather difficult, and just keep in mind surprises are likely and they might be unpleasant. And strap in, I guess. But it's definitely a time for wrapping up and meeting obligations and taking care of any outstanding commitments that you might have. That really kind of wraps it for part one of the broadcast. I'm going to shift into the second part where we dive into which house this falls into for each of you according to your sidereal rising sign and what the themes of that house are. So if you're familiar with the house system already, you can step away, take a break, grab a snack. We'll spend a few minutes going over this, and then in part three we're going to dive into the themes and archetypes of Capricorn and how we can use those themes and archetypes to decide what it is we want to let go of or release with the full moon tonight. Or tomorrow. Kind of exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. But welcome. So part two, we're going to dive right into what themes of each house are active for each of you according to your rising sign. And for Aries, of course, this is going to be a 10th house full moon for you. This aligns with the natural zodiac. Aries being the first sign of the natural zodiac, the 10th house has to do with careers and awards. Has to do with recognition and achievement. Has to do with your ambitions, the things that you really desire, ways that you want to make your mark on the world, things you want to be known for, status and reputation, everything around your ambitions, fame and notoriety, that sort of thing. For Taurus, though, this will be a ninth house full moon for you. So that has to do with international affairs, it has to do with immigration, it has to do with long distance travel, communication, things like publishing and broadcasting. It also has to do with higher education, religion, philosophy, law. For Gemini, it'll be an 8th house full moon for you. So this has to do with other people's resources that are at your disposal. Investment earnings, insurance, taxes, inheritance, bonus and commission income is also 8th house income. If you're not focused on financial themes at this 8th house, those of you with Gemini rising, it may show up in other ways. 8th house has to do with the occult, it has to do with psychology, it has to do with research and investigation, deep analysis, it has to do with death, rebirth, and transformation, themes around complete change. And we do have Pluto kind of tied up in this full moon, so that could be a significant change for you. For Cancer rising, this is going to be 7th house full moon. So that has to do with partnership, marriage, business, relationships with other people in general. It has to do with the things that we reject about ourselves, which is what we tend to project onto other people, right? The 7th house full moon is a great opportunity to dive into some shadow work and release things around the more unhealthy expressions of a given sign that might be showing up in our shadow behaviors. For Leo, this is a 6th house full moon for you. So that has to do with work, health, daily routines, schedules, your habits, diet and lifestyle, employees, pets, things like that. For Virgo, this will be a 5th house full moon for you. So creativity in children, romance, true love, things like that. Pleasurable activities are ruled by the 5th house. So sports, hobbies, risk-taking and gambling, those are also 5th house activities. For Libra, this will be a 4th house full moon for you. So that has to do with home and family, it has to do with real estate, it has to do with your parents. It can be one or both parents. For Scorpio, a 3rd house full moon for you. So communication, travel, childhood education, and it comes up for the 3rd house. Siblings, extended family, things like aunts, uncles, cousins, our neighbors. The 3rd house really rules our immediate environment. Okay. For Sagittarius, this is the 2nd house full moon. So it has to do with wealth and possessions, it has to do with movable assets, money that you earn from the work that you do. It has to do with expenses, things that you own that are of value, but not real estate, right? Like we said, it's movable assets. For Capricorn, of course, this is the 1st house full moon. So it has to do with personality. It has to do with your identity, self-expression. It can have to do with your physical body and your appearance, and also the role that you play in the world, or how you show up in the world, how you interact with the world around you, your behavior, your mannerisms, things like that. For Aquarius, this will be a 12th house full moon for you. So that has to do with privacy and seclusion. It has to do with spirituality. It has to do with the unconscious mind, including our unconscious beliefs, our escapist tendencies, addictions, things that we do to get away from it all. Those are all 11th house matters. And then for Pisces, finally, 12th house matters. For Pisces, this will be 11th house. And that has to do with friends, organizations, and your hopes and dreams. So full moon in your 11th house is a great opportunity to bring a long-held hope or dream to fruition, especially if you've been actively working towards its fulfillment. If you are joining late, there may not be much good this time in leaving me your rising sign in the comments, because normally I can see your comments and this time I can't. So we're recording, and what I'll likely do is upload the recording after the fact. I'm just going to kind of refresh these 2 tabs and see if I have a live feed or access to a live feed. It is tough to tell. On YouTube, seems like I do, but it may not be public, and that might be the issue. Let me see if I can find it real quick. And I don't have a live feed going on Facebook. It says it's connecting, but it doesn't actually connect. So, I was hoping to pull up the YouTube video library and have a look. whether there was a live feed that just wasn't public, but I don't see a way to do that. So I will just dive right back into the broadcast, and we'll just upload the recording and trust that it'll get to everyone in time to do their releasing practice. Tech issues, tech issues, tech issues. So let's talk about what Capricorn is now that we're ready for part 3 of the broadcast. We're going to get into Capricorn as an archetype, we're going to get into the themes of Capricorn, and we're going to discuss some prompts that we can use to kind of help us consider how we want to let go of things that might be holding us back right now. Places where we might be stagnant or stuck or frustrated or just unable to move forward. So Capricorn is cardinal earth. So it's an active principle, but it's a stable principle kind of at the same time. It's symbolized by the constellation of the goat fish, right? Capricorn, the goat, is an animal that can scale heights that no other animal is capable of reaching. So cardinal earth, active and stable. What this makes me think of, and maybe it's because I live in Idaho, we've been having earthquakes here since the end of May, such that we're having rock slides and it's destroying our ability to drive through the mountains in some areas. So earthquake is really what comes to mind in a sense, active earth. Now, not all tectonic plate movement is sudden and violent, as it happens during an earthquake, but it is the process of slow, drawn-out plate movement over time that creates mountains, right? And it's the mountains that Capricorn, the goat, scales, right? So this is kind of where I'm going with that. Saturn is the natural ruler of Capricorn. And so this is a persistent and enduring type of energy, right? It's concerned with effort over time. The 10th house, being at the top of the chart, has to do with outcomes from prolonged, sustained effort. And so that's kind of what we're looking at when we're looking at a full moon in Capricorn, the outcome of a prolonged effort, right? This is about how you show up around dedication, around persistence, around resilience. How do you embody those energies? Or are there ways that you are embodying those types of energies that might not be serving you as well as you think they are? So as a cardinal sign, Capricorn represents the entrepreneur, right? The doer. This is an energy of building. It expresses the active principle through this focus on results, focus on outcome, focus on the end. And that's an expression of Capricorn's position as the final sign in the Earth sign series. So he's bringing the Earth sign series to a close. It's about the outcome of the Earth series. Okay, so Capricorn points to our ambitions and where we're committed to seeing things through to the end. So as an archetype with Capricorn representing the builder, this is the energy of the achievers. It's the administrator or the prime minister. Capricorn has to do with the wisdom that comes from experience throughout the years, and that culminates in success and recognition, and is given oversight of what he has mastered, and that is reflected in Capricorn's position at the top of the chart in that sense. Okay? So Capricorn is the old soul in that regard, the mentor. And as the natural ruler of the 10th house, can represent one of the parents, often the father. If we're speaking in terms of Western astrology and Vedic astrology, the 9th house typically represents the father. Now, whether the 10th house represents the father or the mother can vary, and where it varies, typically it has to do with your own particular natal chart. And so I just want to place kind of an asterisk on that of Capricorn and the 10th house rulership representing the father. I'll just say it represents one of the parents, and the clues as to which it is for you are hidden in your own natal chart. And if you're curious about that, reach out to me. We can help you figure it out. But Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, right? This is Chronos. This invokes father time and outcomes over time. Outcomes, cause and effect relationships, and in this sense of cause and effect relationships, represents karma, right? So Saturn is in his exaltation in Libra, right? So in Libra, that's where he dons the role of judge and holds us accountable for our actions or inactions, right? So he points to where our responsibilities lie and then holds us accountable to meeting them or not meeting them, and whatever the consequence of either path is, right? Now, one thing that we forget sometimes is that we also, we have to be accountable to ourselves, right? And we have responsibilities to ourselves. And sometimes we do forget that. And that's something that's important to remember. But as the ruler of the 10th house, he represents our ambitions and our achievements, what we're really driven towards accomplishing, what we want to be known for, right? So in the sense that Saturn is a karmic planet and Capricorn rules the 10th house, which is the culmination of achievement, in that sense, Capricorn is about what comes after. And so represents both rewards and consequences, right? So the good things that happen and the bad things that happen. So Capricorn has to do with both positive and negative outcomes in that sense, right? And so we tend to look at Saturn as the celestial taskmaster of sorts, right? He's kind of the tough love father figure. He teaches us lessons, right? Lessons that last a lifetime. That's what Saturn is about. He gets a really bad rap in that regard, but ultimately, as that kind of stern, tough love father figure, Saturn has our best interests at heart. And so it's really helpful if you can, in recognition of that, approach Saturn and Saturn's transits in your chart of what is this trying to teach me? Where is this, where is what I'm building built on something weak or unstable, something that has a fault line underneath it, right? So Saturn is here to help you identify those things so that you can build from a position of strength and stability. And so if you can be proactive in how you view Saturn transits and approach them from that mindset, what is weak here, what needs to be shored up, what needs to be fixed, what needs to be strengthened, and what do I need to learn from this, you can really kind of mitigate some of the struggle and frustration that comes along with Saturn transits from that perspective. Now, one that might be difficult to deal with from some perspectives of Saturn transits, Saturn also has to do with loss and sorrow. It has to do with what we fear and facing what we fear. And so representing our most public face, which is the 10th house, and our reputation, Capricorn is very much about authenticity and integrity, and where you achieve alignment between your public and private self, your public and private roles, and your public and private behavior. Okay? And sometimes our fear has to do with the private being made public and how that can change our reputation or damage our reputation. Sometimes it can speak to the fear of loss of reputation or loss of status, right? And you can consider these things kind of in the context of famous people, especially in a situation where their public and private persona don't align. And then when the private is made public, there's a damage to the reputation and a fall from grace, a loss of status that occurs. And that really has to do with living from a lack of authenticity and integrity, and living from that lack of authenticity and lack of integrity ultimately has consequences. And that's what Saturn is here to teach us. To live with integrity, to live with authenticity, and to be mindful of the consequences, not just of what we choose to do, but of what we choose not to do, right? Because every choice that we make has some sort of consequence. And so Saturn really, in his rulership of Capricorn, he's encouraging us to take a look at not only the big picture, but the long term, right? We learn to take a look at the big picture from the lessons of Sagittarius, which comes right before Capricorn. And then with Capricorn, we're looking to learn the lessons of the long-term perspective, right? Not just the big picture. Okay? So in terms of our releasing workshop, let me get a piece of paper here. So I have some questions and some prompts for you to consider. And some of these we've gone over before. Some of them are new and I've kind of tweaked and modified a little bit. And there's a lot. And so I encourage you, like, don't try to tackle all of these, but just pick what speaks to you and go from there. But the idea is we're using the full moon to let go of things that have been holding us back. So these can be bad habits. These can be unconscious or self-limiting beliefs. These can be anything, really. Can be people or situations or behaviors or circumstances. Anything that you need to let go of or release or move past, move beyond. Anything like that is a good candidate for a releasing practice at the full moon. And so what I want you to consider for tonight, really, ideally, you're looking at where Capricorn is in your sidereal natal chart. Where are you avoiding taking responsibility? Or how are you avoiding taking responsibility? Or are you avoiding commitment? Those are a couple of basic things when we're talking about Saturn and Capricorn, right? What are you continuing to accept responsibility for that's really not your responsibility at all? This one's kind of flipping that one on its head. Because sometimes we do this, right? Sometimes we take on responsibility for stuff that really isn't our responsibility. And the fact that we're trying to meet our responsibilities and other people's responsibilities holds us back from accomplishing and tapping into our full potential. And it might even prevent us from meeting our own responsibilities and our own commitments, right? And so when we do that, it's not necessarily a healthy expression of Saturn, of Capricorn, right? What are you afraid of having associated with you, or what are you afraid of being known for? This has more to do with infamy and notoriety, right? Where are you not in integrity or in authenticity in your life? And if you stay on your current path, does that put you back in integrity and in authenticity? Or do you need to change your path in order to move back into integrity and authenticity? What is it about your current status or reputation that you can't let go of, that you keep yourself from evolving into the next better version of yourself? So what is it you're hanging on to that you're afraid to let go of? Related to your current status or your reputation in this moment? What risk is it that you're afraid to take? What is it that you want so much to be known for? And is it possible that you've really outgrown that and that holding on to an old, outdated concept of how you want other people to see you is limiting your achievement? So this is a good one to take a look at through the lens of the Venus retrograde that we had earlier this year, where it was in Taurus and you were really being called to and encouraged to reevaluate your priorities, to reassess your values, and to see where you needed to make changes in your life based on an updated assessment of your values and adjusted priorities. So now, this is an opportunity to take a look at the end goal and make sure that that end goal is still in alignment and on target with those things that are important to you. Or does that end goal need tweaking? What is it you want to be known for? And is it possible this thing you've wanted so much to be known for is something that you've really outgrown? And if you've outgrown it, holding on to an old, outdated internal concept of who you are or how you want other people to see you could be limiting your ability to move on, to achieve to your highest potential, to achieve greater and greater things, right? And then, in what way is a fear of failing or a fear of loss keeping you from taking action in your professional life, or keeping you from taking action towards your greatest ambition? And is there something that you can release to come back into alignment, to come back into integrity, and walk the walk? What are you fearful of that is preventing you from taking the next step? Is it a fear of consequences? A fear of loss? A loss of status? A fear of making a commitment? What is it? Can you let that fear go? Can you trust that if you have to face any one of those things, that it's in your highest and best good? What are you attached to that keeps you feeling safe so that you don't have to face that fear or accept responsibility for your own outcome? Ouch, Phaedra. Why'd you have to go and put that one in there? What are you afraid of losing? And is that fear what's holding you back? Is it possible that if you lose one thing, you stand to gain something even greater? What's limiting you? Where are you avoiding obstacles or creating your own obstacles? In other words, where are you getting in your own way? That's a big one, right? Are you letting old dreams or past accomplishments define you when instead a complete transformation of how you show up is what you really need in order to progress? Something to think about. And are your goals still in alignment with your desires? We kind of touched on this earlier. Are your goals still in alignment with what you want most to achieve, both personally and professionally? And are you still working towards outdated ambitions that aren't taking you where you want to go in life? Do you perhaps need to rebuild from the ground up? And what is it that keeps you from taking action towards that? So this is where it's important to remember that Saturn is about structure, right? And Capricorn is about what's built on that structure, what's at the top of that structure. And so this full moon during his first retrograde of that 3-year tour of Capricorn, like we were talking about earlier, he's giving you an opportunity to examine that structure for weaknesses, so that you can make the necessary repairs. A structure is only as strong as the foundation it's built on. Okay? It's important to remember. So tonight what you're going to do is write down whatever it is that you're fearful of, or fearful of letting go of, or need to release, whatever's holding you back. You're going to write down on a piece of paper. We're going to work through our releasing practice. And then we're going to let it go. Okay? So I'm going to recap these. If anyone who kind of already knows what they're ready to jump in and let go of, go ahead and get started. I'll recap these and then I'll do my own releasing. Okay. Where are you avoiding taking responsibility in life? Or what are you avoiding taking responsibility for? Or where are you avoiding commitment? Or stepping up and taking responsibility? What are you continuing to accept responsibility for that's not really your responsibility at all? What are you afraid of having associated with you? What is it you're afraid of being known for? What is it you're afraid that people will find out about you? Where are you not in integrity or in authenticity in your life? Right? This is about making sure the 4th house is in alignment with the 10th house. Because when it's not, the 10th house is at risk. Okay? This is about being in integrity on the inside and not just on the outside for appearances. Right? It's very much, in a sense, about being who you are. And whether it's worth continuing down a path or pursuing an ambition or achieving a goal that doesn't allow you to also be who you really are at the same time. Something to think about. What are you afraid of having associated with you? Oh wait, we already did that one. What is it about your current status or reputation that you can't let go of, that you keep yourself from evolving into the next better version of yourself? What risk is it that you're afraid to take? What is it you want so much to be known for? And is it possible that you've actually outgrown that thing? Has it just become an attachment? And is that attachment holding you back? Are you holding on to an old, outdated concept of how you want other people to see you? And is that limiting your achievement? I like that one because it kind of gets into sometimes we get caught up in judging ourselves by other people's standards, right? And it's really fundamentally more important and more in authenticity to judge ourselves by our own standards, right? And not worry about what other people think, right? So, is the fear of failing or fear of loss keeping you from taking action in your professional life? Or keeping you from taking action towards your highest ambition? Is there something you can release that will help bring you back into alignment? That will help bring you back into integrity so that you can walk the walk, so to speak, right? What are you fearful of? And is that preventing you? Is that fear preventing you from taking the next step? Is it a fear of consequences or a fear of loss or a loss of status? Is it a fear of making a commitment? Is it a fear of taking responsibility? And what are you attached to that keeps you feeling safe so that you don't have to face that fear or accept responsibility for your own outcome? What are you afraid of losing? And is that fear holding you back? Is there a possibility that whatever that is, if you can let go of your attachment to it, that there may be something even greater waiting for you on the other side? What is limiting you, finally? Where are you avoiding obstacles or creating your own obstacles? Where are you getting in your own way? Are you letting old dreams or past accomplishments define you, and instead a complete transformation of how you show up is what may be really needed so that you can move forward? And this is really a time to be checking whether those goals and ambitions are still in alignment with your desires. And as we came through this Venus retrograde period, make sure those goals are still in alignment with what you want most to achieve, both personally and professionally. Are you still working towards outdated ambitions? Do you need to update them? Are they taking you where you want to go in life, or has where you want to go in life changed? I think I got that out right. Anyway, off the cuff there. Do you need to rebuild from the ground up? And what is it that keeps you from taking action towards that? Okay. So, the structure is only as strong as its foundation. That's the takeaway. So write down whatever it is that's holding you back, whatever you're fearful of, on a piece of paper. I'm going to take my turn here. I think we got it there. I'll have to edit that bit out for you. Shorten it up. And if anyone would like to share in the comments below what it is they're letting go of tonight, you're more than welcome to do that. I'll share mine. It's kind of a mix of things. Kind of a mix of things. So what we do is we write down what it is we want to let go of, right? And in a fire-safe place, we're going to burn it. If you don't have a fire-safe place, you can tear it up. That works too. I'm going to move my keyboard. That's what I'm going to do. Get it out of the way so I can burn mine right here. So you write down whatever it is that you're releasing, what it is you're fearful of, whatever it is that's holding you back on your piece of paper. And then somewhere that's fire safe, you're going to burn it. And as you're burning it, you're going to state aloud your intention to release it, right? So I release this fear, this feeling of attachment, this behavior, this idea, this belief, whatever it is that's no longer serving me. I'm grateful for the lesson it brought to me. I release it in gratitude, right? And so here's mine. Let's get it turned around. So it's my intention to release any attachment, conscious or unconscious, to my dear friend, to my maternal ambitions and dreams. I let go of my fear of other people's judgment. I release what makes any and all of it meaningful for me. And I surrender to the hand of fate and accept that all things are written and unfolding exactly as they should be. I release things with love and gratitude for the lessons that they brought to me while they were in my life. And there they go. So if you burn it, you want to make sure it burns completely. Okay. Or like I said, you can tear it up. Whatever it is that you do, it's just an action to dissipate the energy of whatever it is you're letting go of. And then you can spend a few moments in quiet meditation afterward if you like. So just remember that I think what's the important takeaway for full moon in Capricorn, this works for full moon in the 10th house as well, but I think the big takeaway for full moon in Capricorn is that what other people think of you is none of your business, right? And that you have the power to define success on your own terms and to define your life on your own terms. And if you live your life within the strictures of what other people think of you, you live a very narrow and unfulfilling life. And if you can let go of your fear of that and step into living an authentic life that represents who you really are, and being seen and known for who you really are, and connecting with others from that place of authenticity and not from a place of inauthenticity, life is so much more rewarding. You get so much more out of it. But when you meet people from a place of worrying about what they think of you, you already set yourself up for stepping into inauthenticity, right? And The trouble with that is that it's easy to lose ourselves. And it's very, very difficult to connect with other people in a way where we actually feel seen for who and what we are, and feel validated through being seen for who and what we are. And living your life without being validated for who and what you really are is a challenging life indeed. Kind of empty in a way, right? So just remember that. What other people think of you is none of your business, and you have the power to define success on your own terms. And when you let other people's opinion of you drive your decisions, you're giving away that power. So don't do that. Excuse me. It's a little bit smoky in here now, huh? So what's important to remember is that your life energy is yours and yours alone to spend. It is the only currency that you have to spend. It's the only currency worth a damn. And you get to decide what you want to achieve with it. Okay? So, thank you all for joining me. Stay tuned for a release date for the 2021 Ultimate Astrological Planner, or at least a pre-sale date, hopefully, if not a tentative release date. I've had some scheduling shifts this last month. Join me also Monday, August 10th at 1:30. I'm going to say tentatively Mountain Daylight Time. Hopefully we'll start on time. That's 3:30 Eastern Daylight Time, 8:30 p.m. British Summer Time, and 5:30 in the morning Australian Eastern. I think it's Daylight Time. Correct me if I'm wrong. For the next Sidereal Insights Astro update on the Mystick, Physick, Astrology Facebook page, and it'll also be broadcast live on YouTube if you're joining us from YouTube. Feel free to subscribe and click the little notification bell right there, and that way you don't ever miss a broadcast. You'll get notified as soon as I go live. And thank you all for joining me this evening. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.